listeners, I am Mohammad Shahid, Professor of Social Work at Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. I once again welcome you to these lessons on social work philosophy. Today's lesson is on principles of social work. In the previous lesson on values of social work, you must have developed understanding of the fact that any profession is marked by its unique knowledge base, skill base, and value base. Last lesson on values of social work must have also made you understand that as a part of professional obligations, each profession is needed to clearly articulate its values, principles, and ethics. So this lesson is now a continuation of the previous lesson, and in this lesson we will talk about the principles of social work. This lesson provides an idea on the key principles that guide the social work practice. Principles are guidelines to action, especially in situations where professional obligations conflict and ethical uncertainties arise. Thus, the principles guide the social workers to adhere and act on the basis of core values of social work. On the completion of this lesson, you would be able to enlist and understand principles of social work and recapitulate the value base of social work. Now, keeping in mind these two objectives, we will move on to discussion on principles of social work. Principles are guidelines to action, as I said. Social workers transform the abstract values of the profession into the principles for professional practice. Social workers translate these principles into concrete actions in specific situations. Principles are elaboration of the values in the form of understandable statements to cope with practice situations. Principles are of fundamental importance and utility in situations where social workers face value conflict from within or when there are ethical uncertainties owing to cultural diversities of the clients. Social work as a profession has its unique knowledge and skills to work with clients. The clients or the client system may range from individuals, groups, communities, organizations to society as large. Social work has specialized methods of working with clients at different levels. For example, the primary methods of social work like social case work, social group work, and community work. Accordingly, we find principles of social work specific to client system with principles of case work, principles of group work, principles of community work. However, here we are discussing generic principles of social work. The principles that guide the relationship with the clients are discussed here. The sound understanding of these principles will make you understand the dynamics in human relationship and develop appropriate professional behavior that is required to work with the clients, no matter whether it relates to individuals or groups or communities. Now, let's discuss some of the generic principles of social work. Principle of acceptance, principle of individualization, principle of purposeful expression of feelings, principle of non-judgmental attitude, principle of controlled emotional involvement, principle of self-determination, principle of confidentiality, principle of objectivity, principle of access to resources, and lastly, the principle of accountability. So in total, we will be talking about these 10 generic principles of social work. You can see this figure, and this figure has social work principles, 10 social work principles. This figure is cyclic in nature, and there is a purpose that you should understand for putting these principles in a cyclic fashion. Purpose is to understand that each of these principles is important and there is no primacy of one principle over other. So each of the 10 principles are important for the social workers and these principles are guidelines to action. So there is no need to consider that the principle X or the principle of acceptance is more important than the principle of individualization or principle of purposeful expression of feeling is more important than non-judgmental attitude. Each of these principles are important and that's why in this figure I have placed these principles in a cyclic fashion. Another important thing of putting these in cyclic fashion is that like a cycle is continuous. These principles are also consistently needed in social work practice. So it does not mean that you simply understand that these are the 10 principles of social work. Rather, it is important to understand that we need to inculcate these principles so that At each point of our practice, these principles are there to guide us for a better professional practice principles. Let's start with the first, that is the principle of acceptance. Acceptance as a principle of action implies to perceive and deal with clients as they really are, including their strengths and weaknesses, congenial and uncongenial qualities, positive and negative feelings, constructive and destructive attitudes and behavior. Social workers who accept their client treat them humanly with inherent dignity and worth. Social workers convey acceptance by expressing genuine concern, listening respectfully, acknowledging others' point of view, and creating climate of mutual respect. A variety of factors block social workers' communication of acceptance. These factors include lack of awareness, insufficient knowledge of human behavior, projection of personal perspectives on clients' situations, prejudicial attitudes, unwarranted reassurance, and the confusion of acceptance with approval. So, meaning thereby